6 minutes late for the very best of reasons. Made zero effort on cleaning up the chapel sanctuary. Sorry about that. All right, Korihors. It is 10:06 a.m. on second Saturday. That means it's time for church. We are doing service again, brought to you by your favorite godless preacher. I am Joe Rawlins, first herald of the Church of Korihor. I am going to be turning off the comments in a moment and starting to sermonize. But first, we are going to get kicked off this morning, like we do, with our favorite hymns. I was going to have a couple more started for today. Last night, we had one of the coldest nights in years, frankly, here in Utah. It was freaking cold. And they called a code blue, meaning that it is cold enough for people to not survive out in the cold last night. And there was some trouble at the last minute getting volunteers out to St. Mark's last night. Hello, Rio. Kim, I did respond to your email finally. Sorry about that. I am having a little bit of trouble getting my official email started up. So for now, we're just going to use my personal email. If people want to email me, my personal email is available to you. So don't be afraid to use the contact form at korihor.org, but don't be surprised if I email you from my personal email for a while, because we're trying to figure this out. Anyways, I'm going to do some announcements here after we start out. But of course, we're going to get started with some musica. Let's have a hymn. All right. Present video file. We are going to have Korihor. Okay, let's do this. So one of our new hymns we presented on Wednesday, I think is pretty darn awesome. There's some mixed feelings about it, but I'm going to go with it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start off today with Virtue Signal.
Got the hashtag on rotation. Look at you making a sensation. Online warrior in disguise. Just enough to get the likes. Sharing memes and changing filters, while the world's still on its tilters. Words flow easy from that phone, but action stays behind the throne. Virtue signal loud and clear. A hero in your cybersphere. Change your profile pic tonight. Save the world with just one like. Look so woke in your new stance. Took a selfie at the protest dance. Talk a lot but do so little. Playing big but stuck in the middle. Activism made so simple. Just add a trending symbol. Tell the world that you care. If it's easy, you're already there. Virtue signal loud and clear. A hero in your cybersphere. Change your profile pic tonight. Save the world with just one like.
Got to turn off the mutey mute. Radical. I like it. Some people have told me, it's fun to make fun of ourselves a little bit. But when you make fun of people just being performative about being standing up for our values and principles as activists, you're gonna throw some stones in some glass houses. Well, let's throw these stones. Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to share with you a sermon, and then we will do our announcements afterwards. So let's just go ahead and start with sermonizing. We'll give it a try. I want to share with you this quote, and I want to share it with you 3 times. And we're going to arrive to it. I want us to think about it. Let's start out by thinking about it, and then we're going to keep thinking about it while we are going through a bit of a story. You're going to go a bit of a journey with me while we talk about how we can heal masculinity. Such an important thing, I think, in this day and age. I had a great conversation with Britt Hartley. I love to talk about. I had another one with Jenny Gage, where we talked about this. As a matter of fact, I think I've had this conversation so many times since we started the Church of Korihor that even when people talk, especially when women talk about toxic masculinity, one of the things that most men are not going to understand is that a lot of women who are worried about toxic masculinity are nonetheless, most of the ones I know, all the ones I know, are in love with masculinity. They love the healthy masculinity. They appreciate healthy masculinity. So it's not, when we talk about toxic masculinity, the word toxic isn't describing all masculinity. It is describing specifically that part of masculinity that is toxic. And I love this quote from Bell Hooks, who said, "The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is not violence towards women. Instead, patriarchy demands of all males that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves." I just want to go ahead and arrive at that for a moment, which means that we're going to take a moment. We're all going to breathe in through your nostrils. Then exhale slowly. And do it again. This time you're going to feel the air around your nostrils as it enters in through the nostrils slowly. Really appreciate and feel and have a fullness of the understanding of what it means to breathe in and out. And we're going to think about that we were someplace else, but now we are here. And this is what we are going to do. We are going to take this concept that masculinity can be healed, and we're going to work on it together. Okay? We're going to come back to this quote. I want to tell you a story about an organization based out of here in Utah called Fight the New Drug. I'm going to say some very mean things, and it's going to be for a very useful purpose. I want to be very, very clear that over the years since I had my first interactions with this organization, you know them as the people who go to schools and have assemblies with, young people. And they have them put on these shirts that they have a variety of them now. But at the start, it was these shirts that said, "Porn kills love." And I want to be very clear. We need to give space to everybody to work out their toxicity. And I actually think that these people are trying to do something good. And I would never try to discourage anybody from trying to do something good. The unfortunate thing is that Toxic masculinity created a problem here. Toxic masculinity tried to solve it in a very generous way, and it fails. It fails very much, and it's a problem. And so I wanted to share with you why. I want to share with you this clip. I clipped it out very early this morning, so we'll have to see how well I did. I haven't been to sleep, you guys. I no, that's not true. I got like 30 minutes of sleep because I was volunteering up at the cathedral to help the unsheltered. And boy, did I learn a lot in our conversation. I had so many great conversations last night with our unsheltered brothers and sisters here in Utah, and I learned some pretty amazing things. Very, very useful. Let's watch a clip here.
The physical manifestations will be obviously different, but when it comes to the brain, addiction is addiction.
Fighting the new drug. It's a movement to educate our children about the dangers of a new drug, a drug that many neuroscientists say has the same effect on the brain as narcotics. That drug is pornography. Now, one Salt Lake County councilwoman is making it her mission to get into our schools and to spread the word.
We have these assemblies, these Fight the New Drug assemblies, that our kids will be able to have their eyes open, that they'll feel comfortable talking about this with their parents.
Clay Olson agrees.
We've got to come at this and educate them, because if we don't educate the youth on the harmful effects of pornography, the industry will, and we're not going to like what they teach them.
Olson is the co-founder of the nonprofit Fight the New Drug program, which teaches teens and preteens about the harmful effects of pornography. He says he's received thousands of emails from kids, some as young as 7 years old, talking about how pornography addiction has impacted them.
This is an enormous problem among youth. It's the most popular addiction by far, and we don't have the luxury of closing our eyes to it any longer.
Starting next month, 3 schools in Taylorsville will pilot the pornography addiction program, which provides assemblies for students. Right now, those assemblies are being funded by a private donor, but Brown hopes more donations will make this program available for more schools.
My goal is to have this program in every middle school, junior high, and high school in Salt Lake County.
Brown estimates it will cost about $100,000 to bring this program into every school in Salt Lake County. But if you'd like to know more about the Fight the New Drug program, or to donate, get your school involved, you can go to the Salt Lake City Council, saltlakecountycouncil.com.
Okay. Certainly, there is a truth to being said that we are a society that consumes way too much of the erotica. But why? What exactly is wrong with that? And I would put to you that we are misdiagnosing the problem when we have people like Fight the New Drug trying to basically evangelize to everybody that we need to get people involved in a kind of moralizing of other people's sexual behaviors. And that's what this is. But it's talking about the development of young people. Not just boys, but especially boys. And I am concerned about why we are allowing for these people to lead the way. Now, these people, those aren't 2 words I like to use together, but I'm going to show you why it's important that we talk about these people. That guy, Clay Olson, I have enough mutual friends with this person who founded Fight the New Drug, was one of the founders of Fight the New Drug, to say this much, that it's taken me a long time to not be angry about this situation, to say this. I think this person probably has had a hard time learning a very difficult lesson, and I can appreciate that. But this is why. Let me tell you a little bit about a story, and keep in mind, I'm trying to make as much room as possible for these guys to learn a lesson we all should have learned before this journey ever began. But this is how we do as humans. We make mistakes, and toxic masculinity is I think it's the most hurtful mistake that we make. Okay, I want to show you some things. Okay, so this, you heard them say that this was financed at the beginning by private donations. This is one of the organizations that has financed the Fight the New Drug movement from the beginning. It's called the Ashton Family Foundation. They're based out of here in Lehi, Utah. The slides, it's perhaps a little difficult to read there. Well, it's difficult on my screen anyway. But you might see very closely here. It says Orem High School is one of the entities that they paid small grants to, about $2,000. Pleasant Grove High School, Junior High, Pleasant Grove Junior High, excuse me, and then Pro Life Utah. Okay, so it's a Utah-based family foundation. Those are not surprising. Another one here you'll see is Scripture Central. Yeah, if you know, you know. Okay, a couple other of organizations that you will see if you go through their IRS filings of who they have been supporting. Not surprising is the LDS Church and the More Good Foundation, which is the Mormon Church's foundation for giving charitable donations to organizations that the Mormon leadership consider worthy. It's basically the way that Mormon elites, Mormon persons of means can give to organizations other than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to do things that most people seem to presume that the LDS Church itself actually does. Anyways, but of course, one of those is Fight the New Drug. And this was back, this is last year. The earliest that they started giving to them was back in 2013. Their support varies in amounts. Last year was $5,000, but it's been much more than that in the past. So now I want to be clear that I'm not trying to out the Ashton family or any of its members as being bad people. Again, we are all learning this together. Let's make space for everybody to learn this. And I don't think that they know most of what's going on with the rest of this. I want to tell you about another one of the organizations that they give to, and it's called Sion Funds. This is a little difficult to read here. Annie Blackstone is one of the people who is the person who founded this organization based out of Haiti. And it is, she is basically an energy healer, which will make sense here in a moment why she's associated with all this. And she is this paragraph that I don't know if it's even legible to people out there right now, but it's from the website of Sion Phones, where she talks about how she knew she had to start this organization ever from the moment that she went and visited an orphanage owned by a man named Gizno Marty. If you know, you know. Those of you who are fans of my podcast Hellfire Agency, which is currently being revamped, will know that Gizno Marty was the father of Gardy Marty. If you've ever heard of the Find Gardy campaign to find a little Mormon boy, a Haitian boy, who was kidnapped from out in front of the chapel where his father, Gizno Marty, was the bishop, you know that this little boy has never been found, even though they went to find, they started an organization, they being the Mormons. I'm just going to say I'm going to say a few things quite bluntly, called Operation Underground Railroad. It's a scam. And frankly, the longer that it goes on, the more we learn that it is a scam and more nefarious. And that's the last I'm going to talk about that, because we're trying to be healthy here. We're trying to say healthy things and progress forward. But suffice it to say, Tim Ballard is not a good person. And this is important, what's actually happening with the funds that are being put into this system. Okay? Sion Funds is associated with all these organizations. Several of these, I'm sure, very good organizations. One that you're going to see here is called Foyer de Sion Orphanage. See that there? I don't think you guys can see my cursor, so maybe I'll stop using it that way. Foyer de Sion is an orphanage owned by Gesno Marty, the father of Gardy Marty, the boy who was kidnapped. The best estimate that's come out of this situation with Gardy Marty, who was 3 years old when he was kidnapped, I believe, I believe I don't want to misstate the years, but when Operation Underground Railroad started in 2013, it was already pretty certain that this boy was never going to be found. Gardy Marty would be a man today. There's no trace of him. It's estimated, or it's assumed, quite plausible, that one of Gesno Marty's employees basically kidnapped him for ransom, and or was just trying to get revenge against Gesno Marty. This organization, it was discovered by Lynn Packer, one of the local journalists here in Utah. Basically, this organization moves Haitian children into families in the United States, gets them adopted at a rate of about $27,000 each, and with much less of the rigorous research and due diligence than you would expect when it comes to adoption. It's led to many skeptics, myself included, suggesting that basically some of these private adoption rings are effectively trafficking. And this is not only associated with Operation Underground Railroad. At this point, Lynn Packer has basically said the operation going on in Haiti and Operation Underground Railroad at the time when Tim Ballard was, up until the time that Tim Ballard was basically forced out of Operation Underground Railroad, were operating basically as the same unit, basically operating as the same operation. So we'll move on from there. All right. So that's one of the organizations that's being supported here. In fact, it appears to be the main reason why it exists. Oops, that's out of order. No, it isn't. Never mind. Okay. This is important because I want you to take a look at this organization, this group right here. This is called Eternal Core. Up here, the person who helped to manage and construct and organize all of this this meeting that happens in Salt Lake City, or at least was happening for several years. This is a man named Ken Krogh. Again, I don't think most of these people understood what they were involved in. Good comment, Tessa. You're absolutely right. And basically, the story behind this guy is an interesting story in and of itself. I don't think we have time to get into. But I'm just going to briefly mention why it is that's important here. So basically, this man runs a sales software company based out of here in Utah. He's a man of significant means. Good for him. One day he was driving home here in Utah. He hit a patch of ice in his truck, I believe, on the I-15, somewhere around Springville, and he spun out, crashed, was in a coma, and suffered very severe head trauma. And when he came out of it, he wasn't the same. Couldn't talk right. Couldn't form sentences the way that he was used to. I mean, we were talking severe trauma. Okay. And after that, he discovered that he could not stop looking at the erotic imagery on the internet, and some of it of the worst kinds. We'll say it that way. Okay. He needed help. Eventually, he winds up turning to a man named Tom Harrison. Tom Harrison is the author, it's now known, of the book you see over here under this woman's leg. It's called Visions of Glory. It is a very popular book in the far right, ultra conservative Mormon movement right now. Sometimes called the Mormon Prepper cult. It's basically a cult within the organization of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, within and without. It was written under a pseudonym. It was published through a very popular Mormon prepper by the name of John Pontius. And it's reached a level of some controversy with the claims that it makes. Basically, Tom Harrison is a therapist who worked in the with children at the children's primary hospital. I'm saying that wrong. That's, you know, the one. Yeah, children's primary. And he was working with children who have trauma. Okay. And he quit back in the 80s after he claims he had a near-death experience, in which he went in for an MRI. He fell, and his nurse told him that she was going to inject him with the contrast because he had a kidney infection. They were trying to see what his kidneys were doing. And as she was explaining what anaphylaxis feels like, he claims that he experienced all the things she was experiencing while she was saying them, which is not how that usually happens. It's very rare to go into anaphylactic shock or to have basically an allergic reaction to the contrast that they use to give you an MRI, to the point that that you don't survive. But he claims that he didn't survive. And then he describes what happens after that. Nothing that he claims happened is really even possible. Basically, he hallucinated. And, he passed out from getting contrast. But it wouldn't be the first person to do that, but he didn't die. Okay. But while he claims that while he was passed out, while he was on the other side of the veil, that he saw a doctor come in to the room, and because he was crashing, and he could hear himself crashing, he could hear himself flatlining, and that Tom Harrison felt that he fell through the gurney that he was on, and that he watched as they tried to save his life. And he said that as soon as the doctor came in, he had the sudden realization, now that he's on the other side of the veil, that he can see basically everybody's sins. And he knew that the nurse who had, in his mind, this fantasy, had killed him, was having an affair with the doctor, who should have been there, apparently. It's indicated. I felt like it was insinuated. Yes, I have read part of this book. Yeah. And that he felt the doctor should have been in there the whole time, which is not normal for an MRI. And so anyway, so while he was under, passed out and thinks that he's dead, he basically goes around this clinic and sees like his wife panicking in the other room because she doesn't know what's happening. Goes around and he's witnessing all of the sins of all these people. He can see and feel out everybody's sins. And he goes into the office of the doctor who's sleeping with the nurse. And he basically has a little interview with the couch and with the desk that's in there. And he could feel their grief as the souls of these inanimate objects cry out to God because they're being coerced against their will to participate in the affair between the doctor and the nurse. I mean, it was like, this gets weird, guys. It gets weird, okay? But here's the thing. After that experience, not long after that experience, he leaves practice. He claims, he went and confronted the doctor and the doctors and the staff at this lab, and that they said, that none of this happened, right? You obviously have been through quite an ordeal, but we were all there, and this is a normal thing people do these MRIs all the time, and you were fine. We were there. We would have to report if you had died on the gurney. Nobody brought you back to life. You didn't die. We would know. We know the difference. And it was, yeah. But he was convinced, and he went on to basically start giving these Mormon theology infused counseling, life coaching sessions with people, especially people who claim to be suffering from hypersexuality, or in other words, addicted to pornography. And he became something of a name. That's how he winds up connected with Ken Krogh, who winds up coming to him for help. No shade. I just wanted to clarify this because it can. I think it could sound like I'm making fun of people. I'm not. I'm trying not to, anyways. Okay. Just so we're clear, in case anybody doesn't know, this blonde woman and this man here in the picture, sitting with Visions of Glory, Tom Harrison's book, that's Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell. And this is why this becomes all of a sudden very relevant to things you may have heard about. Okay. Some of the people speaking at this event that I'm referring to here, the Eternal Core, included Tom Harrison. That's this man in the center. I keep forgetting. I don't think you guys can see my cursor. If you see the man in the center there, you'll see that there's a person immediately to our left, his right. That person is Tim Ballard of Operation Underground Railroad. The person on his other side, you'll recognize from the video that we just watched, the news report, that's Clay Olson. And then the person immediately to his left, or to our right, his left, that woman there at the very end, the far right, that's Jody Hildebrandt. Okay, if you know, you know, right? This is all connected. And one of the more recent events that happened here was in this 2017, when not the first event, I'm sure, probably not the last. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming, and I only did so much research because we're moving on to talking about how we can do something positive here, not just making a point out of other people's learning this lesson the hard way. This is an ad that was, or not an ad, but a newspaper article promoting that they were, that Tim Ballard and Clay Olson, of Operation Underground Railroad, were going to be doing an event in Idaho Falls. Basically, these organizations, Fight the New Drug and Operation Underground Railroad, they have just run in each other. They've swam in each other's soup from the beginning. They basically came up together. They developed together, they raised funds together, and they spoke together, they presented together. This is all part of the same group, same movement. And I want to tell you, and I'm telling this story for an interesting reason. I had nothing to do with Operation Underground Railroad. There was no Hellfire Agency. Back when I started into this, I had read newspaper articles by Lynn Packer, who did an amazing job, and some other people talking about OUR, wagged my head and said, like a lot of people in this valley, and said, what are these Mormons up to? And then just thought nothing else of it. At that time, I was focused on Fight the New Drug because I started a documentary a few years ago. It never got finished. I've mentioned it before. It's a documentary called Mormon Sex. And I had tried to get Clay on Mormon Sex to be interviewed for my documentary, or to get anybody from his organization. They very politely, and it was polite, told me no, that they wouldn't have anything to do with it. Okay. And that they had nothing to do with the Mormon church. Okay. All right. And I said, that's fine. But culturally, at least you have to admit, this is all based on Mormon theology. It's all based on some problems with Mormonism. Basically, what these assemblies would do, they'd have Fight the New Drug. They would get these kids to basically participate in what is a revival. There's no way other to call it. There was a revival, and these kids will get up and in front of, and all this has been scrubbed from the internet, that as far as I can find. But these kids would get kids in front of their peers to stand up in front of their peers and cry into a microphone and get a t-shirt out of this, crying, giving a witness that they had looked at smut and that they were worried about becoming addicted to it, or worried that they'd already become addicted to it. And it drives me absolutely nuts that even happened, because porn addiction isn't real. And many of you know that I had a lot of personal trauma around. Those of you who know the rest of my story and know about the trauma I experienced as a teenager, as a Mormon teenager, believing that because my mother had good housekeeping in the house, or we had HBO on cable, that I was going to become the next Ted Bundy, because I went to an event where Cleon Skousen spoke. And Cleon Skousen, if you don't know, we don't have time to catch you up, but if you know, you know Cleon Skousen. I was over the moon excited to meet him, to see him, to hear him speak. And then he decided to give us a sermon, basically, which was the most important thing we could learn. I was 14 years old. And he showed us the last interview the night before the execution of Theodore Robert Bundy. And where basically Bundy informed all of us in an interview, frankly, no teenage boy should have seen, no teenage person should have seen, or at least not without somebody there to comment about, he's wrong, he's lying, he did this, this is how he does this, he got away with it by telling more and more elaborate lies and trying to blackmail people and to poison your mind with his lies. And his charisma, frankly, was not that good. But he was charismatic enough. And in the culture here, I'm just going to be blunt on some of these things, you guys, because I'm tired. I have been up all night. In Mormon culture, if you are charismatic, you are a prophet. That's where we are. If you're charismatic, you have the ability to speak for God. And Ted Bundy used that when he was here in Utah, converting to Mormonism. Yes, he did. And I did a whole series about this. Okay. I went to my bishop because I was like, oh, crap, he's right. I'm going to become the next Ted Bundy here if I'm not careful. And I've got to get right with God. And so I went to my bishop and confessed what a lot of boys my age would have confessed to if they felt guilty enough. There was only some of us, I later come to find out as an ex-Mormon, there's a very small percentage of us who actually confessed. Nobody really seemed to care, which is shocking, because when I was 1995, when I was 14 years old, I was sure I was not only going to hell, but I was going to be the next Ted Bundy. And then I got the little factory pamphlet. That's another conversation. But this toxicity around educating boys about how to think about their minds has been a problem that Mormonism has perpetuated and made worse. And so it's just the worst thing in the world that they then go out and moralize to our children in public schools. Now, and I just want to mention this in passing. The more I looked into the financing that went into Fight the New Drug from the beginning, you'll see that these same organizations are donating to Alpine School District, where my kids go to school. I am going to get off of this topic before I get angry. But my kids go to school. And moralizing to our children and getting them to stand up in front of their peers and out themselves for something that we should be treating for the cause and not the symptom. And I'm going to just move on to this next part of the story. One of the people that I did get to interview was this incredible woman. Her name is Dr. Nicole Prouse. And she conducted a study. She's a neuroscientist and a therapist. And I flew out to Los Angeles when she agreed to be in the interview. I got on a plane that day. I flew out to Los Angeles to her offices near UCLA and interviewed this incredible person who basically she does research into the neuroscience of sex. Interesting person, great interview. One of the great travesties of my life is that nobody has ever seen this footage. I got so much. I learned so much from her. Basically, she did this study in which she was able to show, using a different imaging than is normally used for this, instead of imaging, using brainwave data to show that there is no correlation whatsoever between drug addicts seeing images of drugs, which I don't know if you know about this. I learned this from her. Basically, what they'll put people in, they'll put these headgears on them, this headgear that measures the electrical energy circulating around in your skull. And they can see as they flash pictures in front of your face. They show slides of different things, like, you know, a dog running in a park, and, you know, a kid blowing bubbles, and, you know, a sunset. And then they'll throw into the mix a picture of drugs. And drug addicts, their brains will just react. Oh, it's drugs. Even if it's not their drug. Even if it's not their drug. Oh, drugs. And their brains will react in a way that brains don't react to just about anything else. And they did the same thing with people with hypersexuality. And then threw in porn into the mix. And lo and behold, no such thing. And they did it with a large group of people. And she conducted some of the study. And she published the findings together with a handful of other people. That's going to become important. Okay. This woman basically disproved porn addiction. Now, or at least was able to show that the evidence that people claim about it is not sustained or supported with the evidence. And she did it with more updated technology than has been previously used. People claim that these people that fight the new drug at the time, I think they're being more careful about it now. I hope you guys out there are being more careful about it right now. They were claiming at the time that porn had the same effect on your brain as cocaine or heroin. It is insanely irresponsible. Insanely irresponsible. Trying not to get angry. Okay. So one of the people who participated in this study, in authoring this study, I got a little inside information from Dr. Prowse that I can now actually talk about. She asked me to keep this in confidence after we did our interview. And now I feel safe in saying I can talk about it. I've kept this secret for 10 years. And she said to me, you need to keep this between us, but something you need to know about what's going on. Okay, let me preface it by saying this. Okay, Dr. Prowse told me that basically since she had published this study, she had been under attack by prominent members of the Mormon community, of therapists and non-therapists, coaches. I don't mean to say that all coaches are not therapists. A lot of life coaches are very good and very effective. But the people in this porn addiction space, they're not ethical. And when she published this study, they started attacking her. They accused her of crimes against children. They have accused her of being financed by the adult industry, which is not true. They've accused her of trying to attack the faith of Mormons. And she didn't even publish anything about Mormons. She published about the research and the neuroscience of this phenomenon, which is not such a phenomenon. Okay? We're going to talk in a minute about what it actually is. But she even told me that she somebody hacked into her cloud, her personal cloud server, got into her email and into her documents and started rifling through pictures of her, including, she suspected, by sorting through them. And as she went through the trail, when she finally got through to her images, that they had taken pictures, intimate pictures of her, and downloaded them. And she strongly suspected it was some of these members of this Mormon porn addiction recovery network. Anyways, yeah, it got really wild what these people were doing, basically to try to find any reason to discredit this woman and her work. Obviously, she's a beautiful woman. That means that they could use that and say, well, basically, she represents the adult industry. This woman has been working to help people better understand this crucial part of our lives, sex, her whole career. And, of course, it has to be moralized because she proved that their fantasy was wrong. She told me this. She said, I am going to ask you to keep this between us. And I have. She said, because it could ruin a man's life. It could ruin his career. He's a good scientist. He's a good neuroscientist. And if this got out, these people who have been so crass and so invasive of me in my life, she said, they'd come after him. And I can't do that, because here's the truth. Well, let me show you. Last year, 2024, that man came forward, I believe. But it's the way it looks to me. I haven't talked to Dr. Prowse. She told me that a man had started this, that he was a Mormon who had collected information from people who claimed that they were addicted to pornography, and that he had collected all the data that they had started with, and that she just went and expanded upon verifying what he found with his data. He started out there to prove that porn addiction was real and that it could be treated, and accidentally discovered, as a Mormon in graduate school, I believe at BYU, Idaho, maybe at Idaho State, where pretty much all the men, and primarily men, who volunteered for this study were Mormons who believed that they were addicted to porn. And he discovered, this guy, that there was no such thing, and couldn't publish it because he feared the backlash. This is from an article. I'll link over to it if anybody wants to look at it anytime. It's on associationmormonletters.org. And basically he wrote about how terrified he was because of his fear of the backlash that he would suffer from the Mormon community if anybody found out that he had accidentally disproven porn addiction. And so he had worked with her, and she took the research and the data, and she used it with her data and was able to do that research. But this whole thing started because a Mormon used data primarily from Mormon men in Idaho to prove that porn addiction is not real. And there's a whole cottage industry now around treating this thing that doesn't exist and is doing serious emotional harm. I want to read this quote again before we move on to talk about this next part, okay? Why we're having this conversation, okay? I want to read this again. Let's all arrive. Everybody breathe in. And breathe out slowly. This is going to be good for me because I got a little worked up there. I'm going to take a moment to say, okay, so we went through that story. I want to talk about my journey and the journey of a lot of people in this world who are assigned male at birth. And the trauma that we have experienced that gets neglected because we are privileged. Yes, we certainly are. But privilege can be a chain of its own kind because privilege can be taken away. If you get privilege, it can be taken away. And we are victims of a system that traumatized us for being privileged, but also because other people didn't know how to cope with what they didn't understand about their own minds and their own brains. And so they had to hurt children and perpetuate a cycle of abuse. And that's what we're talking about here when I say we have to be able to heal toxic masculinity. Bell Hooks said, "The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is not violence towards women. Instead, patriarchy demands of all males that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves." I want you to look at this quadrant that I've made for you. I'm not going to tell you right away. I'd love for anybody who's in the comments, and I am opening up the comments. I want you to tell me what this X and Y axis in this quadrant represent. I'm going to say some things that are not true, but that every boy I feel has heard. I know I did. And that when we internalize it, made some of the most traumatic damage that was done to us as boys. I'm just going to use some very gendered terms. I'm going to just ask everybody to understand that when I talk about boys, I'm including trans boys, okay, and trans masc persons who are gender fluid and non-binary. And yes, I'm very serious. Okay, I'm going to read some of these. Top left quadrant: men don't cry. Men don't back down. Top right quadrant: boys will be boys. You're the man of the house now. Bottom left: don't be a little bitch. You throw like a girl. Bottom right: you're such a mama's boy. Don't unload your feelings on me. I don't need a girlfriend. Now, I'd love for anybody out there to tell me, what do these four quadrants represent? I want you to think about that for a moment. We're going to move on to the next slide, and then we're going to come back. And then we're going to read these again. The reason why these untrue statements about boys and men continue to get recirculated into our society and into our culture is because they're actually trying to, these four quadrants are trying to teach boys something about masculinity. And if you looked at what we're trying to teach each other about masculinity, I think it's very important. Sorry, I have made a commitment to check my phone when messages come in because a couple of urgencies, not emergencies, but urgencies have happened. Okay, now everything's fine. Everyone's safe. Okay. All right. This upper left-hand quadrant wants to teach boys resilience and ambition. Neither of those are bad things. This upper right-hand corner, this upper right quadrant wants to teach boys ownership and responsibility. Taking ownership of themselves, taking ownership of their space and responsibility. This bottom left quadrant wants to teach boys teamwork and belongingness. And the bottom right-hand corner wants to teach them adventure and independent, to be adventurous and independent. Okay? And go back. I just wanted to put this out there. This isn't gospel doctrine. Okay, so let's read these comments. Look at these comments again. Who are these people saying these things to boys? What do these four axes, what do these two axes represent? The two axes represent traditionally perceived male and female roles, and the x-axis divides the children versus the adults. This upper left-hand quadrant is what men say to boys. That's so toxic. But with an intention of teaching them something that people perceive as being masculine. And that are good values to have if they weren't said in this way and if they weren't causing the damage that was being caused by these things. Upper right-hand corner is things that women say to boys. I can say this in this particular case with some weight of authority because it happened to me. And again, with the best of intentions. In the bottom left, these are things that boys say to each other. This is things that boys say to their peers. And then the bottom right, this is something that girls say to boys. But if you took the values that they're trying to teach them about masculinity, is it bad for anybody to learn resilience and ambition? No, I don't think so. Is it bad for anybody to learn ownership of themselves and of their space and of their side of the street and responsibility? No, absolutely not. Everybody should learn it. Teamwork and belongingness, absolutely. In group, sure, we need some in group thinking, some tribalism. Well, I don't know that we need it, but it's a fairly healthy thing, frankly. And adventure and independence, absolutely. None of these are bad values to teach anybody. The fact that it should lean heavily on that, well, we need to teach it to boys, because they're not made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Well, that is toxic. That's where it gets toxic. But really where it gets toxic, I'm going to go backwards here, is these statements. Because these statements are trying to teach boys these values by weaponizing them, by threatening to emasculate them. And that I mean in the most literal definition of the word, to emasculate. Well, maybe not. Okay, there's one perhaps more literal word. I mean to remove their masculinity. You will do this. You will accept what we are telling you, and you will accept this role and these toxic values and ideas, or we will take your masculinity away. Privilege is too inherent to your gender or sex or gender expression or identity that it can't be taken away by a society that says, you're a loser. You're not a man, you're a loser. You're not a man, you're a bitch. You're not a man, you're a simp. Okay? This is how we weaponize against boys who, for all the things they are or are not, that we are or are not, are children. I'm not going to get angry. All right. Okay? I'm going to move on to this quote one more time. The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is not violence toward women. Instead, patriarchy demands of all males that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves. Okay. So on my slides, I think it is, yeah. Okay. Now, let us arrive now to this. Everyone take a deep breath, me included, because I'm not going to get angry. Because my toxic masculine trait is anger and shortness of temper and viciousness when it comes to being angry and taking advantage of the privilege that comes with being a man that people are afraid of. And I don't need that to be strong. So maybe I'm going to arrive here for a moment more for me than for you. And we'll all benefit from it. So hold on. I think these people are trying to do the best they know how. The system is toxic, and there is a problem that needs to be solved. Okay. I'm going to tell you another story I don't have slides for. You may have seen some ads on the internet that say hypersexuality is not infidelity. It is an ADHD response. They've had to change it now, finally. But that's not untrue, is the wild thing. And I say it's a wild thing because the organization that's putting out those ads could not be a bigger scam. And it makes me furious because they're trying to get in the same space. See, the thing is, my friends, this hypersexuality panic that we are experiencing and that is targeting boys and men and poisoning their minds, our minds, with everything that I was poisoned with this Ted Bundy interview, but on a much larger scale. Maybe not as extreme, you could say, because, you know, the whole Ted Bundy thing, but it was happening on a small, limited scale at this level of trauma when I was a teenager, I hope, I think. But now it's become a cottage industry to make lots of money. And one of these people who did this, one of these organizations is an organization apparently based out of Ukraine. I've been doing research into this for a while, and I can't get straight answers on this, but apparently an organization that's now currently based out of Ukraine apparently was founded in Cyprus called, there's an app called Wisey, and that's who you're seeing ads for when you see these, you know, hypersexuality, which is the polite internet-y safe word for porn addiction, is not infidelity or sin, right? And it is an ADHD response. That is partially true, and getting at something very important, which is that people use dopamine release and the release of other endorphins in the brain to cope with trauma and to cope with emotional states of being overwhelmed. And a lot of those people are neurodivergent. In fact, that's usually what you're talking about when you're talking about that. You're talking about people who have autism, you're talking about people who have ADHD. And now more and more research appears to show that other conditions that people thought had nothing to do with autism may be part of the same spectrum, including CPTSD and including possibly, this is still, the research is still being done on this, but so far it looks promising, that it could include some kinds of depression, are all the same spectrum. Our autonomic nervous system, and I've talked about this before, trying to warn us, our evolution trying to warn us, you're in danger. And one form of that danger is ventral. It advises us and says you're in danger. That's a ventral response. And the other side, that means that it attaches to the nerves that come down to the front of your body and to your vital organs, including like your heart, for example, and your lungs. And then dorsal, which means it goes around to your back. Think about the dorsal fin is the fin that pops up on the back of a dolphin or a whale, right? That's dorsal. You have a dorsal side because we are from fish, my friends. Our ancestors were fish. And so your dorsal set of nerves in your autonomic nervous system, has one trigger response to danger, and then the ventral has another response. All humans, we respond with fight or flight or freeze. Fight or flight is one, freeze is the other. Freeze is ventral. Dorsal is fight or flight, right? Think about it this way. If you are an animal that had evolved a long tail, which we do have, every human being has a tail before we're born. And there's a gene that actually is pretty cool when you think about it. There's a gene that activates in your DNA that specifically shears off your tail in the womb and causes you to absorb and causes it to absorb into your body. Weird, gross, but cool. And that part that comes down towards your tail is the one that evolved to tell your body, hey, you're going to have to run or you're going to have to fight. And if there's excess waste down there, vacate it. Okay? So think about it that way. All right. So that's one response that says drop everything and run. I've talked about this before as red alert, yellow alert on the Enterprise, right? Most of the time the Enterprise is normal. No, everybody does their job. Everything is fine. Red alert, that's your ventral. No, I'm sorry. That's your dorsal. Yellow alert is your ventral. Okay. And when you are yellow alert, basically your body plays dead. Your nervous system plays dead because we are evolved from fish. And that's how the fish would do it. If you lay there, if you be careful, if you be quiet, maybe whatever is attacking us will go away. Maybe it'll just go away. Maybe it'll just go away. It'll just go away. And your body tries to do that. That is the freeze. Okay. And then dorsal is that more advanced mammal or probably lizard brain response that communicates with the brain cells in your body that are not in your skull, that are distributed out through the rest of your nervous system. Yeah, brain cells. That's when your body calls in the cavalry and says, we all have to pull our weight because we're in a dangerous situation here. Red alert, shields up. We got to go. We either got to warp out of here or we got to turn, charge up the phaser banks, charge up the photon torpedoes and fight. And so that is your body making that response. And one of the ways that autistic people cope with when they are in this response, especially boys, because boys are not, we're increasingly discovered because of these new discoveries in this theory, polyvagal theory. Boys are probably not more likely to be autistic. Our symptoms are just easier to see in this way. Is that they have to do something to stimulate. They call it stimming. You have to stim. Got to do something to stim, to get some sensation other than this danger, this red alert, just to try and escape out of this cycle. And one of the things that people do to do this appears to be that they look at the erotica, they chase an orgasm, they get it, they cope. If it's pictures or video, it is, in our society, it's sick, twisted, and evil. And don't get me wrong, there is evil that happens in that industry. There is evil. Yes, there is. But if we're going to talk about problems of consent in the production of this material, we're going to have to talk about consent and about a lot of things that a lot of people who are upset about the existence of this content are not going to want to talk about. We're going to have to talk about how women get tricked into marriages before they're old enough to get an education. We're going to have to talk about how people are talked into staying in a bad, toxic marriage that's hurting them and hurting their children, and to give up non-consensual intimacy to their spouse because they need them financially, because they need them in terms of their time and support. And how often people, for how long, will say, oh, but he's so helpful around the house. He's so helpful with the kids. He's so helpful with the, whatever. If we're going to talk about toxicity and non-consent in adult entertainment, let's talk about it. But let's talk about it everywhere. I say let's talk about it, but let's talk about it everywhere. Let's talk about wherever it's happening. And let's not just talk about it in ways that primarily focus on shaming boys and men. Because if it's written word, it's not the same. But that's the way. Why? Because that's primarily the way that persons assigned female at birth consume their erotica. They're chasing the same stim. It's just stimming. And shaming it and telling people that they are going to become the next Ted Bundy is going to give trauma to that person for the rest of their life, especially if they are an adolescent when it happens. Okay, that's about my business, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's happening now, okay? What happens with this Wisey app is basically, it's like joining a gym membership. Have you ever joined a gym membership you couldn't get out of? Or Shopify, learned this one the hard way. You basically have to cancel your checking account. If you ever get an account with Shopify so you can sell things on the internet using probably the most popular shopping cart system there is, don't do it. Basically, you pay them $62 a month for the rest of your life until you basically close that checking account. You can't get out of it. It's the same apparently with this YZ app. There are bad reviews all over the internet. People saying this, basically, they got the app that promised them that it was going to remind them basically every day to do CBT. There's two things that CBT can stand for. One of those is, not appropriate for polite conversation, at least not this polite conversation, apparently. And the other one is cognitive behavioral therapy, or basically mindfulness meditation, which is what we're going to talk about before I do some announcements, and we'll do a closing hymn and wrap up. CBT is a sometimes effective technique of basically using mindfulness meditation that's very familiar to anybody who's practiced Buddhism or Hinduism or Shintoism. I believe. I don't know much about Shintoism, so I won't speak much on that. But people who basically have practiced this since Siddhartha, the Buddha, started this tradition of trying to deal with your anxiety, which is really what we're talking about here. Dealing with your existential anxiety, Joe, or are we talking about dealing with your anxiety, like general anxiety, like anxiety of your body and your mind? It's the same thing. Your existential anxiety and your body anxiety is the same thing. Okay? To cope with it, what the Buddha called the first noble truth of Buddhism was the dukkha. The dukkha in Sanskrit means that all that is born suffers. Okay? Anxiety is what we are, is what is inherent. It is inherent in us. It is our birthright, if we have one, is to suffer with anxiety. And our way of coping with it, some people use drugs. Some people use anger. Hey, I'm owning my toxicity. Some people use orgasms. Most people, frankly, use orgasms. Not everybody. Some people use self-harm. Sorry. I'll get it. Stay with me. Some people use existential crisis. When we weaponize coping mechanisms that people use to deal with trauma and anxiety, use play words, Joe. We lose them, and some of them are young people who have their whole lives ahead of them. Bell Hooks called it. Bell Hooks told us, and she wasn't the first. The first victim of toxic masculinity is boys and men. And we must heal it. We didn't start this fire, but if we as people who perceive ourselves as masculine and people who are masculine in our gender expression and who carry the trauma of toxic masculinity, if we didn't start this fire, okay. But we sure as fuck better be the ones to heal it. Because if we don't, we hurt everyone. You know, I get a lot of compliments lately that partners of mine have been trying to tell me I deserve, and that people inside our little movement, our little ship of fools, have been trying to convince me that I deserve. And I'm coming around to it. I'm trying. I get a lot of compliments lately about people saying that I listen to women in ways that men don't usually. And I owe that to Molly. I owe that to Winter. I owe that to Jenna. I owe that to a lot of amazing people in my life who are assigned female at birth, who taught me about the pain that women experience because of toxicity of men, and that I am part of it. I learned it from Kate Kelly, who had who was candid with me, had the candor with me to tell me on one occasion in a very healthy way that I was being toxic. When I was part of when I published my first book, The Korihor Argument, I started to engage with a lot of ex-Mormons about atheism. I was very toxic and didn't know it, and thought, no, we atheists, I'm just calling out the BS. And I didn't realize how I didn't know how to listen when people who were being traumatized by my behavior were trying to tell me to stop. I said this to Britt Hartley, who gave me a compliment on Church for Atheists, and she's like, I want to thank you. I'm going to mess up what she said here. She said, I want to thank you for owning that you are toxic, that you had part in this toxicity. I'm trying here. We're trying to become better. We're trying to transform painful lives into lives worth living. And the first one that you do is yours. I'm doing the work. Thank you for anybody who has given me this compliment in my life, that I'm doing a better job than they might expect. I hope that I live up to it, and I hope that I will help us all to raise the bar and say this should be basic, this should be normal, that men work on themselves, that I work on myself, and acknowledge what pain I have caused. I want to say, before we move on to this next part, because we do have some things to get to, and I want to conclude this here in a minute, that I apologize to the people who I have hurt. I own my toxic masculinity. I am trying hard to also own my healthy masculinity. I hope that I can use it to become a better person, to become a better father, and to be a better advocate for these people who are victims of abuse by a system that uses trauma against children to perpetuate stereotypes that hurt everyone in the end. If we're going to make a world worth living in, we must help boys and persons assigned male at birth to have a healthier relationship with their autonomic nervous system and to cope with anxiety, or we will only perpetuate this toxicity, and it hurts everyone. The first victim of toxic masculinity are boys and men. But then when we are the victim and can't cope, regardless of the fact that it is not fair, it is not fair to us. It's more unfair that we turn it around and hurt other people. And we hurt everybody. We don't just hurt other men. We don't just hurt other boys. Of course not. We do so much harm to people who are female or women, trans women who are women, to persons non-binary, to persons gender fluid, and to trans people. of every kind, and intersex people. We hurt everybody. And we are not going to achieve a better world until we learn how to cope in healthier ways. I was listening last night to Waking Up by Sam Harris. It was one of my favorite books. This is the second time I've read it. I was listening to it while I was volunteering at St. Mark's with Unsheltered Utah. And I was listening on my drive up and on my drive back, and Sam Harris talks about that there's research that shows that a thing called compassionate meditation can actually possibly be part of the treatment for autism. And I was very interested in this. If you don't know, Sam Harris, of course, is one of the most notorious atheists on the planet. And he is a neuroscientist. He is a wise man who recently has said some pretty stupid things. I'm sorry, Sam. That rant, no one needed that. No one needed that. That's okay, though. He's one of the wisest men I have ever heard from, and I have learned a lot from, and we are all benefiting from right now because he helped me to shape what we're building here with his theories and with his philosophy and with his science. It's not for everybody, but I am so grateful that I found The End of Faith by Sam Harris. I am so grateful to have learned so much from his conversation with Majid Nawaz on Islam. What's it called? Islam and the Future of Tolerance. His amazing debates, his amazing conversation, that Four Horsemen conversation. I still love it with Professor Dawkins and with Hitch and with Professor Denton. I forget that guy's name. Anyways, I'm not big into his work. Everybody else. And in Waking Up, Sam Harris, which is about spirituality for atheists, very similar to my friend Britt Hartley's book. I hope I call you a friend, Britt. No Nonsense Spirituality. You should pick that one up too. I know I've been poring over it. He says that they've shown really positive results with a thing called compassionate meditation. I've been doing research into it since last night. I haven't been to sleep. I laid down for like 30 minutes. But I was up in Salt Lake till about 2:00 this morning, and then I've been working on this sermon since then. And I got like 30 minutes in there somewhere. I'd like to say I got a shower in there. That's a lie. Oh no, I got one when I got home last night. That's right. I'm remembering. This is brought to you by Adderall and coffee right now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I've been thinking about this, and it's still in the early stages. But I think that the Church of Korihor should sponsor a ministry for adolescents and teenagers. And I'm listening to this very carefully. I cannot stress this enough. I said at the start of this that we would not recruit children and people who are under 18. We would not convert people under 18 because their brains aren't developed enough to make a decision to a commitment to a church. That's one of the biggest differentiating points between us and Christians, and Jews, and Muslims. They do it their way, that's fine. We don't do that. We don't convert children. They need room to play. This is why one of the 12 values of Korihorism is room to play. Don't indoctrinate children. So I'm doing this carefully. I do think that we have a role that we can play in facilitating, perhaps through an organization that has another name, that is a mission of reason. We'll be blunt, people, that it is a mission of the Church of Korihor, but maybe call something that's going to trigger fewer people, because I love that the Church of Korihor is a triggering word, frankly. I do love it. I love me some Korihor. But maybe a different organization, I don't know what it's going to look like. But I think we need to look at taking the value of meditation, and particularly compassionate meditation, to teach especially boys and men, and to give opportunities to boys and men to learn compassion for ourselves and for others. By growing the parts of our brain, this is how it works, and I'm still learning it, that learn how to think, that know how to achieve theory of mind about the existence of other people and the experiences of other people, and to know those experiences and to perceive those experiences, which is the thing that people with autism, like me, are most notoriously known to have a difficulty with. That none of that sentence was right. People with autism are generally considered to be almost narcissistic or sociopaths or psychopaths, that we are unable to perceive other people's emotions. And while I don't think that is true, that we can't feel other people's emotions or know other people's emotions, I do think that our nervous system, we have to be able to know and to own and acknowledge that our nervous system, those of us who are neurodivergent, especially men and boys and persons masculine, oftentimes we are insensitive to our nervous system doesn't react to and perceive other people's emotions, but we think that it does. We think that we are totally mentally healthy. And we think that our brain is working just the same as everyone else's, and it isn't true. And I have had other people open my eyes to that. And I've really come to realize that toxic masculinity is largely about our inability, our lack of systems to help, especially developing minds, to develop coping mechanisms to deal with anxiety and to be able to perceive our own feelings and the feelings of others. And the fact that so many people who are neurodivergent, autistic particularly, people with autism, including ASD, what used to be called Asperger's syndrome. We don't call it that anymore for very good reason. And ADHD. When we don't feel safe, our brains, we allow ourselves, we create systems in our own mind, in our own life, where we condition our brains and our nervous systems to cope by becoming desensitized to the feelings of others. It's just what Bell Hooks said, but from a scientific level, where she put it in a beautiful philosophical way and with language that we needed to hear. Men are not the only ones perpetuating this. Women do it too. We all do it. But men owning our side of the street on toxic masculinity feels so wrong to us because of our privilege, and we are privileged, especially if we are able to behave in ways that our society perceives as masculine, never mind what actually is. We get rewarded for being toxic. And we didn't do this to ourselves for the most part. It's not fair. But fair be damned. That's not what this is about anymore. It's not fair that we were traumatized, are being traumatized, that we live in a society that continues to traumatize us. And it's not fair that now we have to take ownership of it. But it's also not fair to allow it to be weaponized against the people we love, especially women, girls, persons non-binary, trans people, intersex people. We have to heal. There's going to have to be a movement somewhere along the line, and we're going to have to get the people who know what they're talking about, which is not me, to help us build this thing. We can heal masculinity. We can do it. And if we don't, sure as hell, the God churches aren't going to do it. Amen. Let's have a hymn, then we'll do some announcements. Let's do something that picks up the mood a little bit, because I know that I got a little bit passionate there. And let's do something that's going to make things a little more constructive. Then we're going to talk about some news and some announcements in the Church of Korihor. Let's listen to some Lick My Cupcake. Should we? No. Let's see here. Let's listen to some. I want to hear More Money Than God. Let's do it.
We built this hall with borrowed bills, wrote these songs on broken windowsills. Our altar's made of old tin foil, a godless church built on digital soil. But if the poor church mice who passed those plates woke up with a Robin Hoods in their face, we'd rob St. Peter right down to the floor. Finally make their God stand for something more. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. If Uncle Sam had their money, he could feed the folks they don't. The godly men get elected so that they won't. While they dance round the mountain with their golden calf, will cast their tablets down on Yahweh's behalf. When saints who pay to pray in their pews look to Korihor, get some good news. Oh, we'd fleece Mammon's coffers, their starving flock to feed, send them back to Jesus without their means. So those Judas steeples into unholy sod, at last we'd have more money than God. Their golden gates won't let us in, nor the widows might redeem their sins. Grabbing images paint a hell so bold, but golden plates can't indulge their souls. With their 30 pieces of silver will escape their hell. If they try to stop us, we'll ring their bell. If they get up the nights on their graves, we'll trot. Finally have more money than God.
Kind of unmute that. All right. Woo! I feel good. More money than God always lifts my soul, lifts my heart. I love that. We're gonna have more great hymns, you guys. I want to show you guys some things here. Announcements of the Church of Korihor. I'm gonna share my Chrome tab. Church of Korihor. Okay. All right. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, some of you may have noticed that we've started some new things at the Church of Korihor. I'm just going to say this, those of you in the future, go ahead and feel free to open up this little hamburger here in the corner. It works very well. You people in the present here and now, don't do that yet. I'm still working on it. But this is the menu, and it's going to work a lot better. But I'm developing the system, what it looks like for people who become converts to the Church of Korihor and who become contributors to the Church of Korihor to help us to be able to offset some of the costs, defray the costs of running and expanding and growing what we're doing here. Also, that luminaries, who are our missionary force, will be able to engage in. Again, I can't mention this enough. Luminaries are allies to the work that we are doing. They do not have to join our church. They do not have to be atheists. And we will take them. We'll take their help. We will take their work, and we will ordain them. Yes, we will. We are a cart before the horse kind of group. That is what we do. Okay. And then there, by the way, I have received emails from people who are actually interested in the heraldry, who are interested in basically our version of apostles, which is what I am doing. Which means that like Jenny Gage, people who will be ordained to this order will be my successors. Should something happen to me, and I'm not saying that anything's going to happen to me. Okay, I'm sticking around. Those of you who are worried, I'm sticking around. I'm sticking with you. We're doing this together. Okay. But should something happen to me, these people would be my successors. The second Herald is my successor. This is all written in the bylaws, which are published on the website, sort of. I came back and found out, this is a funny story. I found out that after I had filed our articles of incorporation with the state of Utah with our bylaws in it, that one of the sacraments that's mentioned in there, because I copied and pasted most of it and modified it, we'll have the Lord's Supper. So guess we got to start doing that now. Just kidding. We'll just change it. But funny. I thought it was funny. Okay. People will be able to log in and join and become contributors for $2 a month. I am toying around with creating a second login where you can get in for free, where you can sign up and get a certain tier for free, so that we can make certain services available without charging people for them. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure how soon we're going to be able to get to any of that. That's going to have to be an as we grow kind of thing. Most of the things are only going to be available to contributors, who are people who are not members of the Church of Korihor, but need access, but want access to all of the ordinances because they are luminaries, or because they are members, or because they just want to support the work and they want to benefit from our courses. One of the things that we are going to do is we are going to create courses and offer them to people so that people can get the benefit of, say, for example, as we develop this program where we're going to teach people how to use compassionate meditation to develop our nervous system so that we can better understand other people's feelings, and so we can help to heal some of the damage to that toxic masculinity is doing to boys and to men, yes, but also to everybody else. And then we are going to, okay, so yeah, so the top of this top banner is working out really well. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but when I was on Amin Ra's, or Amin, not you, Amin, Aaron Ra, who is an amazing atheist and ex-Mormon like us, well, like some of us, I was on his podcast. Shoot, man, guys, I haven't slept in a while. His podcast, Ramen podcast, and told him about our blanket drive. If you don't know, Aaron Ra has over 300,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. We were not doing very well, you guys. We were failing at the blanket drive. You know, $1 a month, $2 a month, or one-time donation of $1 or $2 actually does help. But we have such a small audience still currently, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, what we can do about that. But in our first week, we raised about I didn't want to say it was like $12. And one of those dollars was mine because I can always donate to the Church of Korihor whenever I want, and have done a lot. And so, yeah, I'm not going to keep talking about that. Anyway, but I love this movement, and I'm passionate about what we're doing here. Anyways, I went on this atheist podcast, and within the next 48 hours, we had $200 donated, and it's been going up since then. There's a future in this. We're learning some things. I said that we would fail and we would learn. We're doing it at a pace, at a clip, my friends. We are doing it at a clip. We are figuring some things out. One of those things I'm learning, we can't launch a campaign of this size, this magnitude in the future without having some promotional budget behind it to get it in front of more eyeballs, and without having first coordinated a schedule of other podcasts and programs that we can get on board with, and without a press release that will go out to that will make sure it gets to the right people in like the religion news services and things like this, so that it gets immediate benefit of some of that earned media without being a stunt. Anyways, so I'm learning some things here. We're learning how to do this right. You're going to see, though, one of these things. Should do that first? No, let's do that in a minute. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about this. So basically, we're going to use this top banner to promote one of our humanitarian efforts, one of our missions of reason at all times. Right now, it's going to be Rapture 2025, so that we can raise money to make blankets and to collect blankets and go and distribute them here in Salt Lake and in Salt Lake County and Utah counties to all the people, to as many unhoused people as we can. I've been working this week with unhoused people. I've been sitting down talking to them, and I've been learning a lot about them and their lives. And we don't even have time to get into it. Last night, I was up till 2:00 in the morning up at St. Mark's Cathedral up in Salt Lake. I talked to maybe a dozen people who were volunteers there, and including my friend Carl Moore, who has agreed to be on our show. I can't even start about this amazing person, Carl Moore, or Wendy, his associate. I can't even begin to tell you. We're gonna have to talk about that another time, you guys. We are benefiting from the wisest people. We are benefiting from the wisest people, and they are generous with their time and with their wisdom. Carl's going to help us with that. And so we're putting blankets around people who are out in the cold, and it is so cold out there, you guys. I had to work the door last night at St. Mark's. I had to turn people away. They didn't give me this for any particular reason. They don't know any. The people who gave me this assignment didn't know anything about the Church of Korihor. They didn't know what I was doing. They just knew that I signed up and showed up, and they said, "You're going to guard that door, and you're going to be the person to tell people you can't come in because we're up to capacity." This church was stuffed to the gills with people sleeping while watching a movie, all night movie night. They projected Jackass onto the screen. I was talking to the cutest volunteer. She was a really sweet lady. Yeah, she was cool. And I was talking to her, and I looked up and onto the wall and said, "Is that a scrotum?" It's a full-on scrotum on the wall of this church. And she turns and she looks and says, "Oh my goodness, but it is." And I'm like, "Is this like Jackass or something?" She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, I'd never seen it." A lot of scrotums. Anyways, it was the weirdest thing. Anyways, but I got to turn people away, and it was an education. These were people, those of you who have seen our video, did everybody see the video of Operation Rapture from when Elijah, my son, and I went up and wrapped blankets around people on Tuesday? It was there at that same place, that same church. St. Mark's Episcopal, that is one of the few churches actually doing something good. There's a Methodist church, and there's the Community of Christ Church, I believe also in that same network, who are doing it. They're doing the work. And so we're grateful for these Christians being Christ-like, because it's rare. But because they are doing the work. They are doing the work. I apologize for that. I apologize for that snide comment. I'm trying to be better. Okay. Yeah, it was a moving video. I hope you all get a chance to see it, or got a chance to see it. You can go to the YouTube channel and watch it. It's there under the videos tab, and you can share it, of course, to the whole world. Also, make sure that you guys find the Church of Korihor on Facebook. My goal is to hopefully get that the following up on that to enough people that we can start going live there too, because I think we'll double our impact. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about what else has changed. Okay, just real quickly. So I have rewritten the story of who is Korihor so that people can read it. We will be posting a video based on the my Godless sermon from last week, who is Korihor, so that people who prefer to watch it on video. I'm one of these people that I'd prefer watch a video over reading, even though I love reading anytime. You're going to see that there's a link to 3 different kinds of videos basically here. One of them that says, what is that weird symbol? It takes them to that brief video, the 7-minute version of the We're Going Home sermon. And then from there, people can put in their email address and get involved. And they can also click on Begin Your Path to Conversion. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. We're shaping up what it looks like to convert to Korihorism. You can also click on Watch a Godless Sermon. That tab needs work, but it does work. Basically, you click on that, and it takes you to another tab. That button, that page. It takes you to a new page. Turns out it was having all the Godless sermons on the front page was causing the page to load really slowly. That hurts our SEO, and it makes it so that I worry people abandon the page, the front page, while it's loading. Now that I have taken it off of there and reduced the file sizes on everything that loads on this page, it loads a lot faster, and I'm really happy about it. And then there's this one that says, what is the light of reason? And you guys, some of you remember, I did an enlightenment with Jenny Gage, this was her idea. It's a beautiful idea, and I can't tell you how pissed off it's made some Mormons. I'm loving that because I'm toxic that way. I own that. I should recant of that, but it's not happening yet. I love it too much. That's my personal problems. Anyway, so yeah, so these little light boxes will pop up so that people can watch the videos. That way, those people who don't care to watch the video or who want the more streamlined experience, they're going to get a more streamlined experience. This is new. It's probably not great, but it's going to have to work for a while. I said that we're going to shape up what it looks like to become a convert to Korihorism. And that's going to start with this letter I have written, and we'll revise. So as I am wont to say, this will change. So don't be a dick about it. All right, but observe. This is cool. Okay. So this letter says it starts with a promise. My friend, my name is Joe, and I know that your walk in life has not been easy. I honor you and the growth that has brought you here. In this world of so much heartache and pain, it can be easy to despair. We Korihors aren't interested in an easy way. We are atheists and agnostics on a spiritual journey to make painful lives into lives worth living. Godless people are skeptics, but we are also courageous. It took courage for my friends and I to start a church for godless people, and every day it takes some more courage to keep this fellowship going. This next phrase, by the way, is a little bit of a lie, but it's a lie projecting into the future. But not only are we going, we are growing. Every day, more and more people are joining our fellowship. That's the vision I have for the Church of Korihor. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I think we're going to do that, how we're going to fail until we learn how to do it right. But yes, I expect to be able before March 1st, this is my goal, to get to the point where we are taking conversions to the Church of Korihor every single day. At least a handful of new people every single day. And I will dedicate my time to doing this, to witnessing the oaths of reason, to keeping out weirdos and jerks, and getting the people who want to be a part of this movement into it. For the first little while, it's going to have to be free because we don't have money. But as we grow, I will probably fail at this, but I want to see that we can do this in a way at a scale where through the sale of books, especially audiobooks, that I have been writing. I have been writing a lot lately, as much as I can. I'm going to be able to spend more and more of my time until perhaps this year, hopefully this year, maybe even work on this full time and dedicate my time without having to ask people to donate to my means, to my stipend. So, but that's going to have to be when we have moved this, get this wound up to scale. So for now, I'm donating to the church just like everybody else. I'm putting in the money, putting in the work, putting in the time to make this thing grow. And I'm happy to do it because this is the most important thing I have done aside from bringing my children up to be good people. Not only are we are growing every day. More and more people are joining our fellowship. It starts with a promise. Sorry, friends, I did promise that I would check to make sure those texts were not emergencies. I just got a text from an incredible person who gave blankets to that first round of blankets saying, I have another batch of blankets for you. I'm going to go pick up blankets this afternoon. All right. It starts with a promise that we call the Oath of Reason. As Korihors, we spend our short time in this life transforming painful lives into lives worth living. The first life that you will change as a Korihor is yours. I invite you to hear a short 7-minute Godless sermon. From there, if you want to become one of us, I will take you through the process. And I make this promise to you. I will light your path if you'll walk with me. Your friend, Joe Rawlins. And then you click on Start Your Journey. And it takes them to the page that I've showed you guys before. This page has not been updated apart from this. You'll see at the bottom, instead of the application to take the oath of reason, there's a button that says take the oath. This is still being worked on. You people in the future, just try it. You people in the present, don't try it yet. It says basically, here's a whole bunch of text that makes it clear what it is that you are taking an oath to do, what it means to convert to Korihorism. And then not only does that help us to strengthen our defense when the Mormon Church, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Scientologists, the Catholics, all of these other churches say they didn't convert to anything. They're just being sassy. This is a church. We are legally a church. We have values, and they are values that your church thinks are blasphemous. Trust me, these people have promised it. And this is what the Oath of Reason is. But the Oath of Reason is not just about escaping somebody else's religion. It's about converting to Korihorism. Yes, it is indeed. It is about choosing to live a life where we transform other people's lives into lives worth living, and we transform our own. Person clicks on Take the Oath. I am logged in as me, so it takes me right to the page where a person can take the Oath of Reason. If you are not a contributor, it should take you to the page that says, okay, to get to this page, you have to sign up as a contributor for $2 a month. The person will then sign up to that and contribute. The part of the decision that's been difficult for me to come to, but I do think that it's going to be a good, productive decision, is that we are going to allow other people who are not members of the Church of Korihor to nonetheless become monthly contributors and pay $2 a month to help us defray the cost of the church. We're going to have to ramp up we use Wix for our website. I've used it with clients for years now. I resisted it at first, but I got to tell you, I am super impressed. The services there are amazing. and the customer service and tech support are incredible. It is a much better service than anything I've ever used for making websites for paying clients in the past, and I use it for everything now. So, but to step up to the full scale service with Wix, we have all the benefits of it. It costs about $150 a month, which seems like a lot for a website. We're not paying nearly that right now. But yeah, everything right now I'm paying for out of pocket. As we get more contributors, I'll be able to transfer all these things over to what's more appropriate, which is that the church will pay for itself. But right now we're just kind of shoestringing it. Don't worry, be crappy. It's a long story behind that phrase. Anyway, but people will be able to join the Church of Korihor with this button, with this link. I don't know. Hopefully you guys were able to see the page that it goes to when I click on that, because it did open in a new tab. Somebody let me know. Were you able to see the page, what the new page looks like, the new form? Somebody let me know in the comments if you do. Otherwise, you can always go to the website and check it out. Basically what's going to happen is, as I shape what the back end of the Church of Korihor is going to look like, and I am working on that every chance I get, but I do have to do my paying job too, is that people will be able to log in as a contributor and fill out the Oath of Reason form, and you'll be able to record yourself taking the Oath of Reason on video and use the upload button on the form to upload directly to our cloud server. Still figuring all this out. We're going to fail at this. It's going to suck a little bit. We'll figure it out. Okay. We've done it so far. So far, we've got the blankets thing. We're doing better and better at this blankets thing. We'll do it with everything. We'll get better and better. And that's how I will be able to watch those, or myself, or at this point, Jenny Gage, who we're going to ordain, I'm thinking probably in a week or two, fully, officially, and then start looking for somebody else to stand in her place as a director, because I do think it's important for the church to have at least 3 directors. And I think it is important that the directors and the heralds are separate, because basically the directors decide frankly, if we're going to fire the first herald. Not fire me, but we're going to decide to cycle the leadership. So it's important that there are people who are keeping us honest. Oh, I want to show you a little bit about that too. Anyways, so that's what we're doing here. I am at the stage of the sermon, friends, officially, where I, with autistic enthusiasm, gush and overshare. So Korihor help you. But basically, the backside of the membership of Korihor.org is going to be exciting. It's going to be a fun experience. I've been thinking a lot about this while I'm oversharing. You weren't able to see that. Thank you, Tessa. How shall I do this? I'll just grab it like this. The actual page, it's protected so that you can't, so that you can't see it unless you're logged in as a member of the website, is korihor.org/oath. You should be able to see that one now. This is what the form looks like. Okay. It's pretty awesome. So you have this button that says upload video. Click on that and you can upload your video. You fill out your name as it appears on your certificate. If you have a government name that's different than the name you use, there's one name as you want on your certificate that you will receive. I make each of those by hand at this point. Someday in the future, we'll make some kind of automated system where I'll be able to just send you I'll just be able to click a button and it will just send you an automatically generated PDF. For now, it's super easy to make these certificates and they look great. And I don't mind making every single one of them by hand. I love them. I love it. I love every certificate of conversion I have had to fill. I have been privileged to fill out, which is 2. I have converted 2 people to Korihorism officially, and we're going to kick off, friends. This is going to kick off. So I'm going to need your help. We're going to get to that in a minute. You fill out your email. You check the box. It says I am a person over the age of 18, and I have read and agreed to the bylaws of the Church of Korihor and understand by taking the oath of reason I disavow membership in every other church or faith. That is important. You don't have to do that to become a luminary, and you don't have to do this to become a contributor. People can just, pay $2 a month offering to the church, donate it to help us defray our costs, and then get benefit of most of the services that members will have. This is just for people who want to convert to Korihorism. And then you can give a donation. This is, please accept this donation to the heraldry promotional budget. We're going to call that something else. Not decided yet. And we might not use this as a system, but for now, you'll be able to select if you want to make an optional, entirely optional contribution to help us spread the word of Korihorism to other people on the internet. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that now. People can also put in any amount there. I think it allows amounts anywhere up to like $50,000. Please do not, even if you have the means, donate me $50,000 to make Korihorism successful. I don't know how I would even say thank you for something like that. Please, if you have $20, give $20. If you do this, if you even do this. Okay, so let's go back. So that's what it looks like. This is getting so exciting, you guys. Okay, so let's go back to the homepage here. I want to show you something else. This is starting to shape up, and I think it's going to be a great way for people who want to support us and help us to get this word out. You're going to notice that this top banner will help us to save lives this winter. Every $12, donate an unhoused person in a blanket. If somebody clicks on the video button there, it plays that video that I mentioned earlier. Okay. Or they can click on donate to save lives, and it opens up in a new tab with their, I am so not showing anything. Thank you, Tessa. Okay, we are here at, shoot. Does that mean I went on that rant and nobody could even see it? Okay, well, we're just moving forward. Let's just move forward. So this is the homepage. Will you help us save lives this winter? Somebody can click on this button to see the video. They can click on this button, takes them to the Zephy page. Again, Zephy is the organization that we use for our donations. They're an incredible nonprofit organization that people can choose to donate to that makes sure that every penny that people donate goes to the work and covers all of the fees, so it doesn't cost the Church of Korihor. So 100 pennies of every dollar goes to the work. You can click on this link, though, that says, please donate to support all of our ongoing campaigns. And brings up this new page, which is korihor.org/donate. And I want to tell you about this new thing that we have done. First of all, you'll notice on on this page, frequently, you'll see a button that says transparency. We have already started to upload receipts onto the transparency site so that people can see that the money is actually going to the work. For the time being, you people in the future, don't hold me to this in case we decide that wasn't a good idea. We shouldn't have done that. And our current plan is that we will upload the church's bank statements to the transparency page, and people can scrutinize all they want and see where all the money goes in the most raw, basic format. You'll be able to see every transaction. Unless we decide against doing that because it's a stupid idea. And for now, it seems like a good idea, so we're going with that plan. You'll see that it says, bring a message of hope and reason to 100 people a month. And it says, every dime donated gets a video in front of a person on YouTube who has never heard of the Church of Korihor and our work. For only $10 a month, you could introduce this work to as many as 100 people. Please give generously and flash bright. And then there's a donate button. There's no goal or thermometer. That's the thermometer is that goal bar that's at the top of the page on Rapture 2025, so that people can see how much has been donated of the gold. It's like a Kickstarter type of thing. We haven't done that with this one because, frankly, we're going to need as much help as we can get. I can't reiterate enough about this. I am not taking a penny of that fund. Okay. That fund is entirely going to Google. And this is where I am going to tell you, this is one place where your man, the first herald of the Church of Korihor, is an expert. Doesn't need anybody to explain to him how it works. I have worked in video marketing for 30 years. And in the past 12 years, 10 years, at least 10 years, I have been running YouTube ads, and they are effective. There's a reason why why corporations and businesses large and small use YouTube ads right now more than anything else. It is the most cost-effective way to promote anything, and we are going to use it to promote the Church of Korihor. Basically, we can get this work in front of the people who have the time, who have the means, who have the interest in what we are doing, and not just randoms, not just randos. No offense, Culch, if you're still out there. You're my favorite rando, Culch. There you go. We are going. It costs basically about a dime to get a video in front of those people. We are going to cycle through. Maybe I can pull this up so you guys can see the actual page. So. And copy and paste this. Maybe this will work. Okay. This is the page, and people will be able to see. So you can give a one-time donation. They can select any amount that they want, starting at $100, or you can extend your impact and start with any monthly donation. We're asking people give $10 a month at basic. When you fill out the form for any of us here, by the way, you'll see that there's a little thing here that says 17%, add 17%. You can choose other and choose 0. Okay. If you want, if you don't want to donate any money to Zephy. Basically, the way that Zephy is able to keep our services free, is able to keep our transactions free of fees, is because people donate to them. And so they are a nonprofit themselves. So if you don't clarify that, it will charge you an extra 17% in fees, so that the money that you have otherwise donated doesn't get the transaction fees don't get taken out of the work. But you can change it to 0 and it should work. I don't know. I haven't tried yet, but it's supposed to work. Okay. So you can give any amount that you want. And then you'll click on this button, or anybody can click on this button that says, what impact will this donation have? And then it's got this little letter from me. It says, what can $10 do to get a video in front of someone on YouTube? Basically what I just talked about on the other page. Everyone can see this, right? Jeez. You guys, I said I would screw up. Hi, this is the page I'm telling you about. I'm going to start over just a little bit. Okay, this is the page. One-time donation, monthly donation, whatever you want, whatever you can afford that is reasonable and affordable for you. Okay, this is the thing I was just telling you about. You can change the donation to Zephy to help keep everything free. You can pay 17%, you can pay 20%, you can pay 22%, or you can hit other and just hit 0. Okay, it's not required to donate to Zephy, but you can, and I do it. I do it every time, and I've been doing a lot of donating to the Church of Korihor. Well, I don't know, it feels like a lot. Then a person can click on this. What impact will this donation have? This is now working. Yes, I'm going to figure out how to do this in a way so that I know that I'm broadcasting the screen. Okay. There's a button here that says, what impact will this donation have? And then it lets people watch every video that we're going to put in rotation. So right now we're going to put, we're going home. We're going to put the Light of Reason video with me and Jenny Gage talking about the Light of Reason. And then we're going to put that video that I showed you guys earlier this week, Utahns Wrap Our Unsheltered in Love. And maybe we'll watch that here after we're finished with this part, with these announcements, so people can see it. Maybe we'll watch all of them. Should we watch all of them? No, we've seen We're Going Home enough times. Okay, somebody put We're Going Home into the comments if you really want to watch We're Going Home. Otherwise, we'll rewatch The Light of Reason and we'll rewatch Utah's wraparound Sheltered in Love. Basically, if we can get one dime for each dime donated into this fund, we can get somebody who's interested in what we're doing. For example, we can target people who are looking up videos about Godless Church. We can target people who are looking at speeches by Sam Harris or Brett Hartley or Godless faith or Godless services. We can look up. We can promote these things to a variety of people. Godless charity, Godless services. And basically we will use, we're going to take advantage of the benefit of artificial intelligence to help us find the best keywords, get these videos in front of the right people. And we can qualify to make sure that we're not paying for videos, to be put in front of eyeballs in like Bangladesh. I don't say that to be in any way xenophobic or racist to good people in Bangladesh. I'm saying that because sometimes what people will do is they will hire click farms in Bangladesh so that they can get cheap views on videos. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. I won't confess to anything. Let's say that for the benefit of my clients who are good people, and I'm grateful that they pay me, in the video production, in the video world, the video advertising, I have learned those don't work. You'll get views quickly and you will get your accounts blacklisted. You'll get shut down. You think Google doesn't know when you're doing that click farming stuff? They know. So take my word for it. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's tempting because somebody will promise you these things. So, but basically, I'm not saying that for any other reason than this. We want people right now in the United States to find out about Korihorism until we can grow to a point where we have a presence in other countries and we have enough people to support with luminaries in those regions. So when we expand internationally, which I don't expect will happen for some time, but when we do, it'll probably be to Mexico and Canada, and then into the English-speaking and Spanish-speaking worlds primarily. Did I make that announcement now? I am considering creating, while we're getting going here, we're looking at, we're going to make a Spanish version of the website. And depending on how well we do with this, I am going to start giving services in Spanish too. So Spanish is the second language most spoken here in this country. And those people need Korihorism as well. So we're going to start expanding to that. I just want you to catch the vision of this, okay? It could be as soon as 6 months, could be as soon as a year from now, could be 18 months or 2 years from now. The Church of Korihor will be present in every part of the world, could very feasibly be present in every part of the world where English or Spanish is spoken. Just consider that for a bit. Okay? This is a movement. All right. Let me make sure that I'm showing you my screen. So that is the page that is now available to people who click on that button. It's back at korihor.org/donate. And of course, as I showed you, or didn't show you, I don't remember. I don't remember anymore. On the homepage, it's this link that says, please donate to support all of our ongoing campaigns until we change that and it'll look like something else, in which case, I don't know. So scroll down. This is the last thing we'll do before we wrap up here. People will be able to see that we now will scroll down and see, let us wrap the unsheltered in love, checking to make sure that I am broadcasting the screen, with Rapture 2025. Between now and March 1st, 2025, every $12 puts a blanket around a cold person. I am seeing, by the way, that may be changing. We may have to change the amounts now that I have been out there on the streets with the unhoused and unsheltered here in Utah, we may have to make these blankets twice as thick. They have been asking for thicker blankets. I have been handing out blankets on the streets now for about all of an hour of actual on the streets. I have spent maybe 10 hours in collecting blankets and getting my ass to Salt Lake to distribute the blankets. So I put maybe 11 hours this week into this. This next week it'll be more. I have felt the cold in Salt Lake and seen these people's faces and stood with them in the cold. It is freaking cold. So that may change. Just warning. Anyways, every $12 puts a blanket around a cold person in one of our missions. Some missions will also prioritize purchasing and distributing beanies and gloves, which is to talk about this button right here. We have, some of you remember that our first convert to Korihorism was Jules from Albuquerque, New Mexico, or who lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and who has asked to be ordained as a luminary and to head up a mission of the church there in Albuquerque. And I'm very excited about that. I did promise the wife that I would make sure that these are not emergencies. And they are not. And so with this button down here, Donate SoCal isn't live yet. In the future, in the near future, we are going to, if we can organize it, we're going to ordain a luminary or 2 or 3 or 4 or as many as we can in Southern California where the fires are, and we're going to start this up so that people can start donating and so that we can get out there and do this work like we're doing here in Salt Lake. And now in Albuquerque, we'll be able to do it in California. This is going to be the work. Let me just show you this. I know I said I was going to wrap up, but let me just show. We'll give you a quick glimpse of what this looks like. Show the screen, Joe. I suck at this, you guys, but I'm getting better. Maybe we'll do Unholy before we're done, just so we can celebrate that message. Here, let me show you what it looks like. Let me show. So there's a button here that says your mission begins. Do you feel called to our work? We need 100 luminaries for the work. That's our first goal, is to have at least 2 luminaries in every state. You click on that, and it takes you to this beautiful page. It says a higher calling awaits you as a luminary of reason. Well, several people have been asking me recently, a handful of people have been asking me about, Joe, how do I become a volunteer for the church and get called into the ministry? And it is a ministry. My Christian friends have told me, especially my friend Stephen Pinecker has told me, Joe, what you're describing there is a ministry, I hate to tell you. And I said, am I supposed to be triggered by that word? Because I'm not. It's a ministry. It's a mission. We're on a mission, baby. And you can click apply. It will take you down. Whoops. No, it won't. It will by the time you're looking at it. It should take you down to this form that says get ordained as a luminary. And then a person will fill that out and we will begin the process. This is going to change. You can use it now. In the future, just like with conversion, you'll have to become a contributor first, which right now means that you'll need to agree to pay $2 a month, just like converts do. But to help us defray the costs, we'll see if there's enough people who say, I'd rather do this, but I don't want to give any money. And if there's enough demand for that, then we will open it up so that people can volunteer without having to donate. Anyways, we're not sure what that looks like yet. Is the short and long and short of that. Also, we have the descriptions of the different missions of shelter, patronage, enlightenment, and heart. This is all going to grow and develop. As you can see, it's all very blank right now. But I wanted people to know we are working on the experience of what it will look like to be ordained as a luminary in the Church of Korihor. You can use this form now Please be patient if it breaks. That's the long and short of it. But here's what's going to happen. And I have been on now for what, 2 hours? Over 2 hours. So we're going to wrap up. The Church of Korihor is going to become kind of a social network where people can log in, upload your picture, add a description about yourself, what you're passionate about. Now that TikTok is going to be banned, which I never doubted, frankly. Well, no, I did early on, but now it's been some months I said, yeah, no. Now, since November, since the thing, November, I said, oh yeah, well, TikTok's going to be banned. And a lot of people are going to bail. So Tessa just said Discord channel. How many people in here use Discord and want a Discord channel? I hate Discord. But I will launch one. I will do it if people like that. If people like it, we'll do it. We'll start a subreddit. We'll do whatever. We'll do whatever. When I say we, I mean I'm going to volunteer Tessa to do it. Just kidding, Tessa. Not really, though. A lot of people are going to start bailing on Facebook. A lot of people are going to start bailing on Twitter. More people are going to bail on X. And I think that we're in a state of transition in this society. Tessa's excited to be voluntold. We have a group on Facebook, a group chat. I don't put everybody into. It's just for people who don't mind my irritating them all day with little messages about what we're doing with the church. And I just added my sister into it. And I said, this is my sister, Nikki. She's not a Korihor yet. And she is good at being voluntold to do things. So she got added to the group. My sister is pretty rad. And she's excited about what we're doing here. I haven't talked to my parents about it yet. All right. That's okay. They don't have to know everything. But this is exciting. I'm excited about what we're doing here. What was I telling him that we were going to do and then wrap up? Oh, so basically, yeah. So it's basically going to be like a social network. Every sacrament of the Church of Korihor, whether it's going to be the chrysalis for celebrating transition, we're still keeping that so far, or the chosen family banquet, which will be for a variety of different applications, basically celebrating what would otherwise be called coming out of the closet, whether that's about being gay or about being polyamorous or ethical non-monogamous, whether it's about leaving the church that you currently belong to, and you just want people to know, you are my chosen family. We are hosting this event so that you all know we solemnize this familiar relationship between us. That we want you to know, in the light of reason, this is my truth. This is something about me. I've chosen to keep you and make you a part of. And that's basically how we will celebrate, for example, people who are in thruples or people who are in, non-monogamous relationships and want to formalize and solemnize their relationship. It's also a safe place for people who are trans, not necessarily ready to present fully all the time to everyone, and are feel unsafe, putting their transition out there to everybody, but want to be able to do it with a handful of people that are their chosen family. We'll be able to do that. Basically, it'll be a closed door event similar to like a wedding. And basically, it'll be a closed door event where you have to be invited, and then we'll prepare some food, sing some hymns, have some jokes, maybe if that's appropriate for the occasion. A luminary will be able to speak, or a herald if that's the case. A clergy will speak. Somebody from the clergy will speak if that is wanted, and rituals will be performed in a closed door setting where people feel safe, and with people that are their chosen family. That's a chosen family banquet. And then, of course, we will do weddings. Oh, I should show you the wedding songs. We'll do that. No, we'll do that on Wednesday. I have got AI to craft us up some really good wedding songs. I've been thinking a lot about weddings. I've mentioned before that we are going to have a position in the clergy called rhapsodist or bard or something like that. Anyways, I'm very passionate about that music is going to play a central role in what we're doing here. And so eventually we're going to have people who play instruments and sing who can be asked to show up to events and have their own QR code. We're still working, big burn. We're still working on what that looks like, by the way. Who will have a little QR code and a link that they can put up on a sign somewhere where people can scan it and be able to donate to them and make a tax deductible donation. So we got to make sure that this is all, going to work in terms of the accounting. We'll screw it up at the start and then it'll get better. And then people can support them, and we can support some artists in writing and singing songs, creating music about this movement, and music will play a huge part of this movement. For now, AI is doing all the singing. Maybe me, we'll see. And if anybody out there is a singer or a musician, please, come to the website and contact us. I would love to talk to you about how you can help us to fail better and fail faster at making this mission happen, because I am so excited about the future of music in the Church of Korihor. It's going to be so much fun. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I have a couple more announcements, but we're going to have to forgo them because we're running way past time, and I'm doing my ADHD autism-y ranting thing now. So we're going to wrap up now. I'm super excited, you guys. I don't know if you can tell. Either my Adderall just landed, or I just have a natural norepinephrine high right now, which has got me into trouble in the past couple of days. I am going to do the announcements. You guys, you know how I'm passionate about Jesus mythicism. So not passionate, but somewhat passionate about Jesus mythicism. We're going to formalize it tomorrow. Richard Carrier, who wrote on the historicity of Jesus, Why We Have Reason to Doubt, probably the most seminal work ever about the theory that Jesus started with a myth and not a man, has agreed to be on the show on Friday. So we're going to do this on Wednesday. Good to see you, Tessa. If you're bailing, thank you for coming by. On Wednesday, or maybe earlier, maybe later, we haven't formalized it yet, Natasha Helfer might come on the show. She asked me yesterday on Facebook Messenger, whatever happened to all that footage we did for your documentary? I told her about, and I struggled for a long time to tell you this, Natasha, because apparently you don't know, but I couldn't find funding for Mormon sex, and I had to bail on it for my mental health because it got bad. And she's like, oh, I just hate for that footage to not be seen by anyone. I'm like, I know, but I didn't have your permission to show it to anybody and to publish it. And she's like, we have to do it. And I was like, we totally do. And she's like, how? And I was like, you could come on my show and we could broadcast to your channel too, and we could watch it together, and people could watch it and see what we did. Because guys, what was this, 6 years ago? I had the most amazing conversation with Natasha Helfer about Mormons and sexuality, and it was the best thing. And this, I don't know if you guys know much about Natasha Helfer. If you don't, you just got to look her up. Amazing person. I have probably benefited more from conversations with that woman than just about anybody. Natasha Helfer. Jennifer Finlayson Fife, also. I think she still goes by both names. Jennifer Finlayson Fife, another one. Incredible women. You just have to look them up if you don't know. So let's have a closing hymn. I'm excited about this. I don't have anything formalized yet as far as this week's interviews. You're just going to have to make sure that you're subscribed so that when they drop, you can see them. It's going to be so good. Natasha is amazing wherever she is. Her appearances on Mormon Stories have been amazing, remarkable. I have maybe contacted Mormon Stories. I have maybe contacted John. Anyway, shall we have a hymn? I said we were going to do Unholy. Let's do it. Until next time, my friends, remember Wednesday service. We are doing it every week from now on. By this Wednesday, I hope to have everything finished up in terms of what the back end of Korihor.org looks like so that it's not so broken. If you do anything with it now, you people here in the present moment, please be careful and generous about your critique. Please, any criticism, make it constructive, because I am trying here. I am trying. It's so much work, and I love every minute of it. I've loved this. Thank you for being at sermon today. Let's close out with Unholy. Remember that all of our Godless hymns are in the shorts category on the YouTube page. Please feel free to share them everywhere, you guys. If you can share those shorts, if you can share these hymns on your Facebook pages, on your social media of all kinds, put them out there if you love these. If you love these Godless hymns, I know I do. Until next time, my friends, flash bright.
Unholy, I am unholy, full of unvirtuous, rambunctious, and perverted thoughts. Unholy, I am unholy, I am a rebellious asshole. I should be locked up on the spot. Fascists overthrew it, forgot.